What's up guys, XHOUNDISHx here, and today I wanted to jump in and take a quick look at the new Smite of Merain Adept, the pulse rifle from King's Fall, and in my opinion, probably the best King's Fall primary all around. So of course these Adept versions have elemental damage, Smite of Merain itself coming with solar damage, which is pretty awesome. So let's refresh on the perks anyway. All of the King's Fall raid weapons do bonus damage to Taken. This is an okay perk when you're fighting Taken enemies, of course. For ballistics options, we have Linear Compensator, Accurized Ballistics, and Field Choke. You're gonna want to go with Linear Compensator right here, as the kick on this thing is pretty strong, but also it only gets more obnoxious if you choose either of those other ballistics options. The next unique perk is Cocoon. When stowed for a short time, this weapon automatically reloads from your reserve ammo. This is a pretty cool perk still. In the raid it can be particularly handy, although I would say it's probably more of a beneficial perk on the special weapons and heavy weapons. However, in other situations it works as well, you know, say you switch to your sniper for a few seconds and then switch back, it's gonna be reloaded, which is always good. In the middle though, we have hand loaded for more range, lightweight for 2x character agility, or reinforced barrel for more range at the expense of stability, which I can't really recommend because this thing already kicks like a mule. So I recommend either hand loaded or lightweight. Hand loaded is going to improve that range just a touch, which definitely helps. If you're into lightweight, that is of course an option. Not having that teeny bit more range isn't going to kill the weapon. Finally though, we have Firefly, a unique perk to this particular pulse rifle. Firefly is awesome on this weapon because it already does a ton of damage. Of course, Firefly just makes things even better. In general, Smite of Merain is an extremely powerful primary weapon. Fatebringer is a god for PvE because explosive rounds and Firefly, you know, what do I need to say? It really helps in higher end PvE content, and I feel like the Smite of Merain is the equivalent for pulse rifles. The archetype in general does very good damage in PvE, and coupled with Firefly, you're gonna mow down ads which are bunched up. On top of this, Smite is really good for high health targets, once again because of that damage, but also because of the high flinch value. With all of those rounds in each burst hitting a target, it's incredibly effective at killing tanky knights and things like that, and I find Smite of Merain to be really effective against hive enemies in particular. It's great for the bridge and ear yut sections of Crota's End, as well as the Glyph, War Priest, and Golgoroth sections of King's Fall, because it one-taps any of the low tier ads, and then it absolutely stuns any of the higher tier stuff as well. Solar damage though. In any activity where you have solar burn, you know, you're really going to feel the power of this thing. I took it into Challenge of Elders with solar burn, and it absolutely decimates in here because one, you have solar burn, but also these rounds are against Taken and Hive enemies, where this thing really shines. On top of this, it's a really good primary when Small Arms is active, because as well as the damage the thing already does, solar burn or bonus primary damage along with Firefly, boy, this thing destroys in PvE. You'll probably have noticed though, I keep talking about modifiers of the activity that you're playing, and this is where this weapon, as well as most other Adept raid weapons, have their limitations. They take up that exotic slot firstly, which in most activities you probably won't mind, but when it comes to raids and stuff, you know, you likely will want to have that exotic slot for things like swords, black spindle, sleeper, and so on. So while this thing is a beast, the Adept version is probably one that you will use for activities with the modifiers that make sense. That is okay though, in my opinion. The thing I like about having these elemental primaries is the decision making. When the modifiers are right, you can totally opt for a super powerful primary, which kind of deserves that exotic slot in that situation. But overall, considering what I've mentioned in this video, this is why I think that this Smite of Merain is the best raid primary from King's Fall. I would say that Doom of Kelchis is pretty close, but it's a fairly plain scout rifle, you know? It has full auto, which is nice, but so does Vision of Confluence, and they're in the same archetype as well. So considering all of that, and the fact that Smite is a pulse rifle with Firefly, what more can I say, man? I did take this thing into PvP again briefly, and I still find it pretty fun. Back when the Taken King launched, you would actually see these things somewhat regularly until those, you know, higher rate of fire pulse rifles took over. Smite does a ton of damage if you hit your shots in the Crucible though, the biggest downside being the huge kick that the weapon has. If you miss a couple of rounds, you're gonna lose that engagement because these things already have a little bit of a disadvantage against the other pulse rifles. Of course, Smite of Merain is in that Red Death Hopscotch Pilgrim archetype, archetype. It's kind of limited range-wise as well. You really have to be in a medium or longer medium range. You know, if you're up against a hand cannon in close range, you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose to scout rifles at long range. You're gonna lose to stuff everywhere, wherever you use this weapon, which is kind of a shame that, you know, this archetype isn't a bit more of an option for PvP. I have to say though, Cocoon is potentially an insane perk for PvP. You know, you switch out to your special, make a few more kills, and then switch back to your primary and it's reloaded. That is pretty awesome right there. I would love it if they'd put those perks on like trials weapons or something like that, even though that could be kind of broken. Despite Smite of Merain's downfalls though, I really love this weapon, guys, and it's awesome to have it back. What do you guys think? I think this is the best King's 4 raid primary, hands down, man. And I feel like it's the same case for the Adept version as well. But there we go anyway, guys. Just a quick look at Smite of Merain in year 3. I wanted to give you a few thoughts on the weapon. Let me know in the comments if you've picked this thing up or what you think about Smite of Merain in general. If you have enjoyed the video, a like is appreciated below. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit subscribe to see more Destiny content. But for now, you guys have an awesome day.